Morning.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, Jamie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. That's a very nice cricket jumper you're wearing.
Yeah, well, firstly, it's quite cold and I wanted to wear something warm. Secondly, I fancied going a bit Fifth Doc.
Did you?
Yeah, just for today.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and nice to see you've made the effort as well in your fleecy, jackety, zippy thing.
Well, I just went and found this in the loo. Not in the actual toilet, but
yes.
Yeah, it is cold, and I'd, for some reason, left this in there.
Hasn't it turned?
It has, and it's wet. But we need that for the farm.
Yes, I'm sure you do. How are things on the farm?
Very good, yes. In fact, strangely, we're in your Fifth Doctor mode.
Yeah.
Our youngest lamb is called Peter.
Ah.
And me and Peter...
Was he the fifth lamb, by any chance?
No, annoyingly, he was the sixth, but let's say he was the fifth.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out how a sort of Peter Cushing lamb could have been in there somewhere. Anyway, and me and Peter have become like best mates, and he comes trotting over to me and jumps up for a scratch and a cuddle. It's really lovely.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that nice? That's the only cuddles you get, I suppose, aren't they? Really?
Nobody else wants me. So.
No, of course not. All right.
Thanks.
You're there. I'm here. Shall we?
You mean record the podcast? Yes, let's do it now.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
This is Jeff Tracy from International Rescue, and you're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. That's a great choice you made there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Well, thanks, Jeff Tracy.
Well, the next best thing.
Yeah, nice of him to drop by. Courtesy of the lovely Jon Culshaw, of course.
I love John's Jeff Tracy. It's just so nice. It's the warm tones of Jeff Tracy. Oh,
yeah, it's lovely. I have to admit, listeners, that Jamie you sent me a little clip, didn't you, of Jeff Tracy in the sort of communicator watch, overlaid with Jon Culshaw's fantastic impression.
Yeah, well,
nice.
Andrew Clements did that. And
great. Well, thank you, AC.
Cool
lovely
to bring it to life that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Yes, it is.
You are...
I'm Richard James, still, and you must be...
equally still Jamie Anderson.
That's right, and here we are for Pod 52. Now, those of you who've been with us for the previous Pod 51 pods is what I'm trying to say. Well, you'll know the game, but there might be a few people out there who are joining us for the very first time. Imagine that.
Yeah, and they're already confused and irritated in equal measure.
Because so far we talked about lambs, Jeff Tracy, and we're only a minute in.
Yeah, let's see if we can do better.
Exactly. So here's what to expect over the next sort of hour and a half or so. We have some regular features coming up, of course. We've got Chris Dale's amazing Randomiser, whereby he sits down in front of a random Gerry Anderson episode to give us his thoughts and comments, and that's a much beloved section of the podcast. We know that. We've got some news from the Gerry Anderson universe, because there's always stuff happening, and we'll bring that to you in a little while. We've also got the return of the voice of the Podsterons, the listeners' emails. People have been sending them in at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. I'll be reading out your tweets and also your posts from the Facebook group, our listeners' Facebook group, the Podsterons. They've been getting in touch. And finally, we've got our new section, the Quickfire Facts, which we'll be surprising each other with throughout the podcast.
Is that what we're calling it, Quickfire Facts?
Well, why not?
Well, because it sounds remarkably similar to another much loved segment of the podcast, which is FAB Facts, Richard.
Oh, did I forget that?
Yeah, why don't we call it Quickfire 5 instead? Because then...
Quickfire 5?
That sounds like a Gerry Anderson series. Gerry Anderson's
really does.
Quickfire 5.
Cool, right, I like that.
Yeah.
You're very good at this sort of thing, aren't you? You're very creative, Jamie.
Making nonsense up. Absolutely. One of my many... few skills.
Yes.
Anyway, and we've already mentioned Jon Culshaw, so the second part of Jon Culshaw's interview is coming up in a little while, later in the podcast. And yes, it was just such a nice chat with Jon. He's such a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
Well, all of our interviewees have been, haven't they?
Absolutely.
I don't think we've had
apart
a
from
bad
that one
yet.
that we're not going to mention. That, yeah.
What, Terry Adler?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Goodness me.
I said we weren't going to mention.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I'll go back and edit that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
Yes, of course they are. So you can listen to the second part of our Jon Culshaw, or rather Jamie's Jon Culshaw interview a little later in the pod. And don't forget, you can go back and listen to previous podcasts. We've got a wealth of interviewees now. We've been going a year, and every week, just about, there's been someone new, a few two-parters and a few three-parters even. But lots of love on Twitter, for example, for Jon Culshaw. For example, Josh Long said, "Wow, these Gerry Anderson podcasts just keep getting better and better. The wonderful Jon Culshaw was a treat for me, not only as a Doctor Who fan, but also as a Dead Ringers fan." Yeah. That's right. So people have been tweeting us, hashtagging us, Gerry Anderson Podcast. You can contact Jamie. I'm Jamie Anderson, and me, Richard and James, to give us your thoughts, and we'll try and read them out. In the meantime, finally, before I run out of breath, don't forget to subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on, to rate us, review us, and subscribe. I've already said that. Share. That's the last one. Share us with your friends.
All of those, please.
Yeah, exactly. All the above. Do it now.
Brilliant. Well done, Richard.
Phew. Can I rest now?
You can.
Great.
And the reason you can rest
Yes.
is because I'm about to take over
Oh no.
with another fantastic
Oh. Go on.
FAB Facts.
Oh, put me out of my misery. Come on then. Yeah, all right, boys. Yes, come on in. I know.
At least the
a bit
band
early
cheer you
still.
up.
I know. Yeah. Come on then.
You ready for this?
Just about.
Listeners, you know the game, but if you don't, I've got a book of FAB Facts. I flip through the book, Richard shouts FAB, we stop on the random page, and I give you a fact or two or three from that page. Unless we've already had it, then I find another page and we talk about that. And then we talk about it, maybe or not.
Yeah. That's
Brilliant.
got it.
Really sold it there. So here's the book,
Hang on,
Richard.
brilliant.
So, what?
Did you say brilliant? Did
Sorry,
you say?
FAB is what I meant. Anyway, okay. So here's the book, Richard. We're
Yeah, there it
going
is.
back to front today again for a bit of variety. Are you ready to shout FAB?
Born ready.
Then here we go.
Fab.
Oh, we did
Give
go
us the
through.
page number, Jamie, for people who are playing on at home.
This is the spread of 86 and 87.
All right.
Got a great one for you.
Oh, I love it. Come on then.
I really love this because once again it connects the worlds of Doctor Who and Gerry Anderson.
Excellent.
The creator of the Daleks, Terry Nation, was behind the idea to do away with spacesuits and provide the crew of Fibre XL5 with oxygen pills while walking in space.
Ah, that is nice.
Now, so do you know this, Richard? So Terry Nation visited AP Films in Slough.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And was chatting to Dad while they were doing the early puppet builds of the Fibre XL5 characters.
Yes.
And while they were walking around and chatting, Dad said, the one problem we're really having is the spacesuits, because getting helmets on and off the puppets with the wires and stuff is just a nightmare, and I'm actually slightly worried about it. And Terry just thought for a few moments and then went, well, why don't you just say that they take oxygen pills and then they don't need the spacesuits?
Nice. What about the pressure?
Yeah, this
sorry.
is fiction, Richard. You're
I
one
see,
of these
yes.
people that comes
Yeah.
along and says, excuse me, can I just let you know a few facts here
Yeah,
about
right.
science?
Being a bit pedantic.
Yeah.
No, but that's lovely.
And Terry Nation said, yeah, you can have that one for nothing.
Well,
And so Dad did, and that's why there's oxygen pills in Fibre XL5.
that's great. I like that. It just goes to show you can write your way out of anything, can't you, actually? Because particularly in sci-fi, it's your world, isn't it? You know, it's your universe that you're creating and your rules go.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're finding that even with Firestorm type stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking, are we constrained by this? Well, we want it to be kind of believable in the universe.
Yes.
But you know, it kind of the world's your oyster, really.
Absolutely it is,
Your fictional world is your fictional oyster.
Well, quite. I love a fictional oyster. Particularly a little fictional Tabasco sauce. Oh, delicious.
And maybe some chopped up shallots and a bit of... sorry.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Is that the only sort of crossover between... I mean, did Terry Nation... Was he ever mooted to write for any of your dad's series, or...?
Well, I don't think Terry Nation was, but there's plenty of others who did kind of the ITC and Doctor Who rounds that were involved across both series, or both sets of series, crossing the BBC and ITV boundary.
Yeah.
But I think that is a particularly good FAB fact, Richard.
Yeah, that's great, and particularly appropriate considering I'm wearing my Fifth Doctor sweater.
And we've got a lamb called Peter.
Oh, it's all rather neat, isn't it?
Gets more and more connected, doesn't it?
It does. Well done, you.
So I suppose, Richard, that brings us sort of neatly-ish to the end of this week's Fireball Fact. Great.
Hey, work.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah,
I love
so
that fact. I don't know why. I just have this really vivid image of them walking around the studio and this moment of sort of fun genius happening.
That is a moment that you would see, if ever, and if this has been mooted many, many times, particularly by the fans, to have a docudrama, much in the way that they've done with Coronation Street and the beginnings of Doctor Who and so on, a 90-minute special documenting your dad's kind of 60s particularly career.
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be one of those moments, wouldn't it? You see that recreated for you on the TV. That'd be lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of imagine somebody at reception calling through to Dad, Terry Nation's here to see you, Jerry. And him sort of rolling his eyes, probably going, "Oh, I've got enough to deal with," and then the kind of meeting of mind stuff going on.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, thank you very much. That was, very well done. I quite enjoyed that Fab Fact, Jamie.
Really?
Yeah.
It's only taken us 25 or 30 or how many it's been for you to enjoy one, but I'm glad you got there. Listeners, if you enjoyed that Fab Fact, then do tweet us with the hashtag #FireballFact.
Yeah. I won't hold my breath. Anyway, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Here we are for the
You
next
won't need to, Richard, because I've given you some oxygen pills.
Oh,
sorry.
You're so good. That's very good. You can get in touch with us on Twitter, as many of you have done. Just hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, so we'll see it there. Mark Wilson, for example, said, after hearing from your amazing mum on the Gerry Anderson Podcast, Jamie, I've just found you're going to meet my mum at the Fab Worlds of Anderson next week. Can't wait for you to meet the woman that introduced me to your father's ongoing legacy. Well, isn't that nice?
I look forward to meeting Mummy Wilson next week.
We love it when things are passed down through families, don't we? And Phil Steer got in touch on Twitter saying, only just caught up with the Gerry Anderson Podcast, the Golden Podiversary. That'll be our 50th edition. Thank you, Jamie and Richard and Terry, for answering my question and loving the new Phil Steer section of the show. Yeah.
It's back again now.
Yeah, so that's never going to happen again. We won't do that again, Phil Steer.
No.
We're not going to keep mentioning Phil Steer's name again.
No, nobody wants to hear Phil Steer's name being said over and over again, do they?
Oh, not Phil Steer, no.
Anyway, thanks for emailing Phil Steer. Or tweeting. Was it a Phil Steer tweet?
It was
or
a
an
tweet.
email?
That was a tweet. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and don't forget you can join us on Facebook as well, where we have our very own listeners group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons.
Yes.
And people have been posting many hilarious things there. Their own quizzes, I mean, they seem to exist in their own little world without us. It's rather sweet, isn't it?
Well, it's great. I mean, that's what we need because, we're rubbish outside of this recording session. And Richard, just while you mention the group, remind me in the news section when we're talking about this weekend coming, and I've got a little idea.
Okay, great. So yes, do get in touch with us on our Facebook page. People have been posting, things like their own quizzes and guess the episodes and their top 10s as well. Carl Scott got in touch. He spotted a question on The Chase this week. Don't know if you saw that with Bradley Walsh.
I did.
The question was, which Gerry Anderson character worked for the World Intelligence Network? Was it Lady Penelope, Captain Scarlet, or Joe 90? And even the Beast got it wrong.
Really?
Yes.
Everybody knows it's Joe 90, surely.
I know. Rob Doyle, he's cock a hoop because he said my copy of Fab Facts has arrived, ready for Pod 52. So there you go. I bet he had it out just now. Steve Rogers posted on our Facebook page. He's listed his top 10 couples that should have happened. Yeah.
Right.
Strangely, we're not on the list, Jamie.
Oh, rude.
But for example, he gives us Steve, Zodiac, and Venus.
Yeah.
John Tracy and Tintin.
Oh.
Yeah. He says she needs a man, not a boy.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ouch, poor Alan.
Yeah. Virgil Tracy and Lady Penelope.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he said, okay, those are mine. Who would you like to sing Getting Together? There you go. Of course, the immediate response from many people was Orin and Romek.
Oh, of course.
Of course it was.
Romek would be such a nag, though.
Oh, yeah, but I think Orin needs a bit of that.
Yeah,
to keep him on a straight and narrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There we are. That's enough nonsense.
Right, Richard. You know what that means. Quick fire 5 for you. And this week, there's some interesting ones. Ready?
Yes, ready.
Here we go. Supercar or Super Thunder Sting Car?
Oh, supercar.
Ooh. The Investigator or Candy and Andy?
Oh, the Investigator.
Granite Crunchies or Sublight Pizza?
Sublight Pizza.
Oh, rude. Zill or Zuni?
Oh, Zill.
And finally, Charlotte or Jamie?
You can't do that to me.
I need your answer, Richard.
You can't. She's my wife. Jamie.
Good answer. Thank you for that.
Oh, I'm going to so get it in the neck now.
I'm going to send that clip to Charlotte.
Thanks.
Thanks for doing that, yes.
Yes, and from next week, Jamie will be presenting the Gerry Anderson podcast on his own.
No, I know who you really choose outside of the bounds of this podcast.
Of course. But crikey, that really does up the heart rate, doesn't it, when you hear that siren?
Yeah, and the tense music works quite nicely, I think.
Yeah,
do you know, when I was... I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's still a Gerry Anderson tangent.
Yeah.
When I was writing that Zill or Zuni thing, I suddenly thought, Zill?
Yes.
Well, that's Liz's pet, right? Liz Brogan.
Yes, have you only just realised this?
Yeah, I have, and that's Liz backwards. Now, it's not the realisation of that which is the interesting thing, but do you know where that fascination of Dad's originated from?
No.
Well, it's time for another Fab Fact.
Oh, hang on, they're coming back. In you come then, boys. Oh, crikey, I thought it was the last of them.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just a quick Fab Fact.
Go on.
Rodney Matthews,
Yeah.
who was the designer of Lavender Castle and the creator of Lavender Castle, I suppose,
Yeah.
a fantastic fantasy artist. Now, Rodney's son is called Yendor. Yendor.
Right.
Which is Rodney backwards.
Yes.
And when Dad found this out, he was so fascinated by it and thought it was such a clever thing to do.
Right.
He would then regularly try to put in characters where their names were the backwards version of an owner or a friend or a colleague or whatever.
Yeah.
So Zill, I can almost guarantee that Zill, being backwards the version of Liz, is Dad's idea.
Right.
And there was another idea he had for a kind of cyber lassie a few years later.
Yeah.
Called Rigor the rescue dog.
Rigor.
It's Roger backwards. Not quite as effective as Yendor, I think, because Yendor sounds very, very Welsh at the time when he was living in Wales. Anyway, there you go.
Well, on that note, while the band are still here, Commander, the part I played in the episode Predator and Prey from Space Precinct, Enil Commander, which backwards is Adam Klein.
Ah.
Who on earth is Adam Klein? He's got to be someone, isn't he?
I don't know, but I'm going to try and find out.
Yes. That can't be a coincidence, can it?
No, it can't be.
Adam Klein, yeah.
There you go. So that's the end of this moment's
Takaf
Bath. It's not quite as neat, is it?
Not really, no.
But there you go. If you've noticed any other characters from the Gerry Anderson universe where the name is something else backwards, do let us know.
Just email us at ku.oc.nos. No, I can't.
But let's not bother. Somebody might try and it'll go wrong. Anyway, exactly. Richard, we've gone way off kilter here.
Yeah, but it's your fault.
We're several hours into this recording now.
We're all a little bit older, aren't we?
Yeah. Shall we go into some Gerry Anderson news?
Let's do it exactly that.
Good. Well, I mean, this is fascinatingly tangential, but shall I get back to the script now?
I think you ought to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Richard, it's not me getting back to the script; it's you getting back to the script. Because I need you to do a reminder of what's happening at the end of this week in Leicester at the National Space Centre at the Fab Worlds of Anderson. And then I'm going to say the thing which I remembered earlier.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you're going to meet Mark Wilson's mum, of course.
Which I'm very excited about. I hope she's bringing cake.
She better now. Yes, this weekend we, that's Jamie, myself and Chris Dale, are going to be at the Fab Worlds of Anderson at the Space Centre in Leicester. That's the 15th and 16th, the Saturday and Sunday coming this week. We'll be there for the Fab Worlds. I think it opens, I think it's a 10:30 start those days, but do double check. We're going to be doing the podcast on stage on the Saturday. And as long as we can get the Wi-Fi sorted, we'll be broadcasting our next edition of Fab Live on the Sunday afternoon, again from the stage, including a live audience. Now, if you would like to give us any questions for next week's podcast, and you are at the Fab Worlds, do come along to our table where you'll find Jamie and I, and I think we'll have some scraps of paper, won't we, or little bits of...
We've got some postcards,
sweet
Richard,
wrappers and things. Oh, I see.
Which I haven't actually ordered yet, to be fair, so I better get on with that. Another thing
might well
today.
be some sweet wrappers.
Yes.
Just write your question on there, and we'll come to you during the recording of the podcast if you'd like to read it out yourself from the audience. That would be great. If not, we can read it out for you and answer your question live on stage for the next podcast. So yes, that's what's happening next weekend. It's all very exciting.
Now, my thing I was going to say is, Richard, again, subject to Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll work. Let's see. But there are lots of Podsterons who can't make it to Leicester.
Yeah.
But they're in the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Podsterons.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be rather nice if we tried our very best to stream the whole thing live to the Facebook group, which we can do.
Wow. The whole thing live, what do you mean by that?
Well, not the whole event, but the whole, the podcast recording live. So they get to experience it live as well. We won't be able to interact with you just because there's too much going on.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to see what's going on and feel like you're there, even if you can't make it. That is subject to technical things.
Yes.
But we'll do our very best.
Yes, and also throughout the weekend, again, we'll try to record bits on our phone and broadcast bits live from our phone throughout the whole weekend as we walk about, talking to people, seeing things, because that would be rather fun, wouldn't it? Because we do want as many people as possible to feel, if they can't make it, that they are there with us. That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Because you're very much part of it just by being a listener to this very podcast.
That's right, yeah.
So that's the anniversary thing at the Space Centre.
Yep.
If you would like to feel like you're a member of Moonbase Alpha or the World Aquanaut Security Patrol, Richard, which I know you often wish you could.
Well, yeah.
Then may I recommend you pop over to the Gerry Anderson store, shop.gerryanderson.co.uk, because we've got some rather snazzy polo shirts featuring the Moonbase Alpha and Wasp emblems.
Yeah, they're lovely.
They're very nice, and they're, slightly smarter than the usual t-shirts. Nice bit of embroidery on the chest.
Yes.
They're rather nice.
They're really quite nice. I might get the Space 1999 one. I think I might get because it looks like, with that insignia just tastefully done, it looks like you are part of,
Exactly, a part of main mission.
Absolutely, yeah.
So go and grab those,
nice.
and I think actually they're discounted by 10% or something for the next week if you want to save a couple of quid on them.
Yeah, great.
Now, Richard, before you dive in with this, I'm going to just put it in anyway.
What's that?
Well, I've heard that you've got a book out, Richard.
No, we covered this last time, Jamie.
I know, but it's actually out now.
Yeah.
And I just felt it was time for a pluggy plug.
Oh, that's very kind. Yes, it is out now. It's called The Head in the Ice. You can visit bowmanoftheyard.co.uk and pick it up on all formats, paperback, ebooks, your Kobos and your Kindles and all that.
Photograph.
What's been so lovely, Jamie, is people posting pictures of the book arriving on their doormat or on their shelf with their Sherlock Holmes collections. It's a piece of Victorian detective fiction, so it fits rather nicely alongside your Arthur Conan Doyle's. And it's been rather gratifying. Lots of lovely reviews. Second book is out on July the 2nd.
Exciting.
Yeah, so it's all go, isn't it?
And I believe, Richard, if people sign up to your mailing list, they can get a free short story.
Well, there you're wrong, Jamie. They can get 2 free short stories.
2? What are they called? Smithfield Murder.
The first one is the Smithfield Murder, and the second one is the Workhouse Poisoning.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so the idea is, between each of these novels, there'll be 2 short stories. So that by the end of the whole series, we'll have 4 novels, 8 short stories for free. Short stories will always be free if you subscribe, and that means that you have a story, either a novel or a short story, for every month of the year.
That sounds like putting a lot of pressure on yourself there, Richard.
I know. I'm not going to write it in a year. What I'm saying is each story is set in a particular month of the year 1892. Yes.
Brilliant.
So by the end, you'll have a whole compendium of stories covering a year.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. Now, I'm sure
just as well I've got lots of time on my hands.
Exactly. Now, listeners, if you don't want to be reminded of this fact every week, then I suggest you all go and buy the book immediately. Otherwise, Richard will keep plugging his book in the news section.
That's very kind.
Deal?
Yes. Yeah.
Deal.
That's
okay.
Good, yeah.
Now, Richard, that actually, it's quite a nice, light news week. So
fair enough.
That is the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. That was the news.
Beautiful. Kind of jazzy vibe there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice. Cool. Yeah, great. Now, let's get back to Twitter, shall we? Because people have been getting in touch with us and hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast. For example, Brandon Gant said, I enjoyed part 1 of the Jon Culshaw interview on the Gerry Anderson Podcast. I was particularly excited to hear that he was a Joe 90 fan. Though Jamie Anderson gives the show a hard time, John is absolutely right about the appeal being that Joe is an unlikely hero. Roll on part 2. Yeah, fair enough. James Pilson Wood, another great podcast. Looking forward to Leicester. He'll be there for both days, so you might get sick of me. He says, oh, Richard James, he says, will your book be available as a hardback? Oh, yeah. Yes, it will. And I'll be taking a few with me. That's the bin lorry you could hear again, of course. Because if we do this on a Friday morning, we're always going to hear that.
Good. Lovely sound.
So yes, I'll have some copies of The Head of the Ice, and I'll also have some copies of Space Precinct Unmasked as well. Honestly, what am I
Flogging
like?
your wares.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? Yeah. And Megan said, great part 1 of the interview on podcast 51, gentlemen. John's impression of my hero Jeff Tracy was perfect. Peter Dineley would be proud. And finally, Mark Simpson Wedge. So agree with you, Chris Dale. I love the mobiles.
Mobiles.
Damn it. In fact, I love all the Caterpillar tracked vehicles in Anderson shows. Such a cool sound effect. So yeah, we agree with you there, even though I always forget quite how to say it.
Nice work, Richard.
Thanks.
Very good.
So there we are. Yes, do please get in touch with us on Twitter or email us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Yes. Like these people. Ooh.
Oh, what is... Jamie, what have you done?
This is the voice of the Podsterons.
Oh, you've just let someone in.
I've got to turn the heating back on, I think.
I think you should. No wonder we're in jumpers.
Well, that means obviously it's the voice of the Podsterons, doesn't it, Richard?
Well, yeah, because that's what we just heard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, when I say that, I mean that means it's listener emails.
I see. Yes.
I forgot to translate from the original Mistron language there.
Right, okay, great.
Oh, dear. Richard, why don't you start us off before I get anything wrong?
Yeah, I will do. Well, this is an email from, I think it's from Simon. Simon says, hello, Stan and Ollie. Right.
We know which one's which, don't we?
It's come to this, isn't it? Yes. He says, thank you for a continuously entertaining podcast. We don't even dip out occasionally. It's continuously entertaining. Following the gender reversal of Doctor Who, I was wondering if the same could happen to future remakes of Gerry Anderson shows. So we might get Tina Tempest, Paula Metcalf, Joanne Koenig, or Dr. Tamsin Neinstein. And that's from Simon. Oh, it's a thought, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I don't see any remakes forthcoming.
Yes.
But if there are any, then yeah, why not go for more gender balance? I mean, Dad was already pushing the boundaries of trying to bring in more female characters when the things were made originally.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, you look at something like Terrorhawks, where he said Tamsin Neinstein. Well, I suppose she should be Tigress Neinstein, really.
Very good.
Or something. Tigress. Sounds a bit rubbish. But that team was already pretty well split.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, there were 3 boys and 2 girls in the main group. So, yeah, they were already going for pretty even balance. But, yeah,
I could see that. Let's say that there was a reimagining of Space 1999. Let's say there was a remake. There would be absolutely no problem with having a female Commander Koenig, would it? Because you'd be reimagining the series. Yeah. So why not have a female commander? That would work. Of course it would.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very good. Nice question. That's got us thinking. Like it.
Orin and Remeka. I don't know.
I like that.
Or Aureen, perhaps.
Aureen
and Romek.
That's very continental, isn't it?
Well, actually, if you say that in your Morningside accent, I think it'll work nicely.
Aureen!
Exactly, see? Anyway, yeah, thanks for that, Simon.
Yeah. Nice.
I've got our second and final one for now.
Oh, yeah, for
John
this week,
Howie Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually asking a question which gets asked quite a lot. So I'm sure lots of people will be happy to hear an answer, even though it's probably not the answer you're hoping for.
Right, fair enough.
Jamie and Richard / Richard and Jamie. Huge fan of the podcast, and like so many, I really enjoyed the interviews with Mary. That's
yeah. That's right.
Glad to hear it. Fantastic to hear how she maintained her strength and resolve during the difficult early times of the relationship. Very, very inspiring. I treasure my Captain Scarlet and Joe 90. Sorry, Jamie. Blu-ray, limited edition box sets, and the comics and fantastic supplements. And I'm wondering if there are any plans for similar sets of my other 2 favourites, Stingray and Fireblack XL5. Really hoping so. Keep up the fab work, and thanks for keeping the magical Gerry Anderson worlds alive. All the best, John Howie Jr. Now, I either feel like I've read that before, or it's just a question we get loads. So,
yes,
listeners, if we have read it before, then let us know which pod we read it out in.
You can't remember.
No, I can't remember. Anyway, John, thank you for your email and your kind words. We have great fun keeping the magical Gerry Anderson worlds alive, don't we, Richard?
Well, we do, don't we? Yes, you're right. And it is magical, isn't it?
It is magical. Now, in terms of future releases, Stingray and Fireball, if you pop all the way back to Pod 10 with Tim Beddoes from Network Distributing, you'll hear Tim say that Stingray is next on their list. There's no guarantee of timeline, but I don't see why they wouldn't be doing another lovely box set again. Fireball, I don't think so. Only because it's black and white. So it doesn't. Although it benefits in terms of clarity, it doesn't have the same benefit of going through the whole process of rescanning, remastering for a lovely HD set. So
also, is there a sense that maybe black and white, there's not quite as much a market for it?
I think so, yeah. I mean, stuff does get done like that, but I think that's much less likely. So, yes, look forward to Stingray, and I imagine we'll be seeing that probably next year. But obviously, as soon as there's news, you'll be able to hear it right here on the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Very smooth. We do have one extra email here, actually, just at the end here.
Do we?
To me, it says, "Hi, Richard," which is nice. Your package with 15 copies of Space Precinct Unmasked will be delivered today. If you want us to leave the package unattended, please provide delivery instructions for the driver. This is not... to do that, visit the track package page. Yeah, sorry, that's something I need to deal with. That's nothing to do with the podcast.
That's from your admin pile, Richard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'll just put that there for later. We'll just file that.
Yeah, if you could. Right, anyway, so that actually is the end of listener emails for this week, isn't it?
But you can get in touch with us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and if you're lucky, we might read your email out next week.
Or unlucky.
Again, if we've read it out before.
Yeah, we might repeatedly read your email out and then be confused whether we did it or not. Oh, no.
Right, sorry, Jamie, it's time for your quick fire 5. Are you ready for these?
Not really.
Right, Pinewood Studios or Slough Trading Estate?
Slough.
Sam or Nagisa?
Sam.
Straker's car or Captain Scarlet's car?
Oh, Straker's.
Oh, Matthew the Gardener or Parker the Chauffeur?
Parker.
And finally, Terrahawks or Lavender Castle?
Terrahawks. Sorry, Lavender Castle. They were actually quite easy choices this week, Richard.
Yeah, they seem to come quite trippingly off your tongue there.
Yeah, you just made them easy for me because you knew, really, didn't you?
Well, I shall have to try hard. I'm surprised by Slough Trading Estate you went over Pinewood because of the history thing.
It's the history and the feeling of it.
Yeah.
You know, when I used to go to Pinewood as a kid, when they were doing adverts and Space Precinct and all that sort of stuff, it had a really kind of, I don't know, just a lovely atmosphere to it. And these days it's a lot more, understandably, a lot more sort of corporate and commercial with Disney taking it over for Star Wars and stuff. And it's lost its soul a little bit, whereas Slough, I think, will always somehow maintain its slightly odd trading estate soul.
Yes,
made it what it was. So Slough wins.
Yeah, fair enough. Alistair Gordon, Nicholas Gelsthorpe got in touch on our Facebook page to say, I had to have an operation done on Saturday. As I was heading into the theatre and arrived, the music from Operation Time was playing in my head. This is a Captain Scarlet soundtrack. Saying, not sure why. David Sisson, now this is interesting. We were asking last time about where the Space Precinct police cruisers might have gone.
Yeah.
So David Sisson posted some pictures and said, on the latest podcast, Richard asked about the Space Precinct police cruiser and if it was being stored safely somewhere. Well, sadly, he says, some friends and I travelled down to Wales 20 years ago to rescue some props from a deserted, run-down factory, only to find everything was either missing or smashed, including the cruiser, which was in a terrible state, so I doubt if it still exists. The journey was recorded, he says, by Jeff Smart, who recently produced some DVDs showing the terrible storage conditions that the items were being kept in, not helped by the awful rain that never stopped all day. It was even raining inside the buildings. That is sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great shame, but...
I mean, you can't keep these things forever, I suppose.
No. I mean, and some, big production companies and stuff. I'm sure Disney have got an enormous archive for all their Star Wars stuff.
Yeah,
it does get stored, but smaller scale stuff, especially where it's not a continuing going concern. Yeah. These things happen. It's really sad.
Yeah, Hayden Gribble got in touch to say that his book, Child Out of Time, Growing Up with Doctor Who in the Wilderness Years, was being beaten in the Amazon charts by FAB Facts.
Really? Yes, we've created a bit of a supply and demand issue in the world.
It's like a run on the bank, isn't it? The run on FAB Facts.
It's great.
He also said he appeared on episode 36 of the Nerdology podcast talking about his love of all things Super Marination. So that might be worth a listen if you're interested. Yeah. So, yes, do please join our Facebook page, the listeners group. You'll have 3 questions to answer. Do make sure you answer all 3 of them. Otherwise, I personally can't let you in.
No,
once you answer
James.
Absolutely. Answer them all and come and join the fun.
Yeah. And I'm just having a look at Fab Facts, actually. It's currently number 4 in the TV and radio performance for young adults section.
That's great.
And number 43 in children's books on television and radio.
Lovely.
So there you go. I mean, that's a book that hasn't been out for... I don't even know how long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 2004 version. I'm not sure it's even that new, but
yeah. Oh,
Wow.
That's nice, isn't it?
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Richard,
Yes.
enough reminiscing
Oh, quite,
and
yes.
Fab Factory.
At least from us.
Yeah, exactly. Shall we go on to our guest interview for the week?
I think we should.
Good. Well, it's Jon Culshaw again, obviously. Jon Culshaw Part 2. We continue chatting through the worlds of Gerry Anderson and a bit of Doctor Who and a bit of other stuff. John's very nice. And annoyingly, we get interrupted by some oiks from another podcast, would you believe?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there goes the neighbourhood.
Very rude. Anyway, let's go straight back to John. I think he was talking about Jon Pertwee when we left him last, wasn't he? So back to John talking about John.
And my goodness me, Jon Pertwee, I just adore him. You know, that voice of very sharp, that lovely sharp resonance. And the way his doctor was very paternal and very protective, and the wings of the mother hen. And the children watching, they could rely on the doctor, he'll sort it out, and that's that. And yes, I just adore him.
Well, John was I came to Classic Doctor Who in 1989 via VHS, and I had VHS. My first Doctor Who story was the Day of the Daleks.
Love that story. Love that story.
It's great. I mean, it's kind of a slightly lame Dalek invasion of only 3 of them and all that sort of stuff. But it was John's Doctor that got me into Classic Doctor Who. I was totally hooked from the moment I saw that story. So, yeah, fascinating stuff, and lovely to hear you doing his voice as well. You know, I never met him, sadly, but he and Dad met. I think they were doing a TVAM interview or something like that in the mid-90s. And they got on famously. And later John wrote to Dad and said, if you ever remake Thunderbirds, Gerry, I'd love a part there. And he was desperate to play Parker.
Absolutely.
I've still got that video. I've still got that letter somewhere, which is just a lovely thing to have. But Dad got me his autograph and I think he gave Dad a Bessie badge for me.
How absolutely! These are treasured things.
Yeah,
treasured things. I'm just trying to imagine how Jon Pertwee would have played Parker. They probably would have taken the voice down there a bit. Yes, milady. Yes, I have reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, milady.
Well, there's an unexpected crossover that I really hadn't even considered before, John, but brilliant. Funnily enough,
I did the pink car. The pink car can be a hybrid with a Hoomobile and have the power of flight, milady.
Fantastic. Well, I've been talking about the Pertwee and Thunderbirds connection recently, and we thought actually Sean Pertwee in a modern Thunderbirds could actually do quite a nice, slightly different Parker. In the same kind of way as his Alfred in Gotham. There's something there.
Yes, he could certainly turn on that quirky livability and have all the comic timing and the skill to honour the character from before and sort of put his own infusion into it as well.
Yeah.
He's got a terrific voice as well, Sean Pertwee.
He's got that throatiness of that whatever that quality is, John, you'll know better than me, that John had. That's still there in him, isn't it?
Yes, it's a little bit more relaxed, perhaps around about here, that kind of thing. But yeah, a little bit more, a little bit more in that kind of fashion. But yeah, still very much.
Well, we'll have to take this off air and do a full live action casting for a live action Thunderbirds.
That's right. That's right.
We can come up with an amazing cast there.
I can't stop.
I know. I was going to say, John, it must be difficult for you not to slip into multiple characters. But on Thunderbirds, I'm sure listeners will want to know any parts of that show that really stood out for you, be they characters, vehicles, or a story that grabbed you and excited you.
The vehicles. Definitely the vehicles. They were all so distinctive, each with their own colour, very collectible. very collectible, great for you to draw, easy for you to, you had a chance of making these things, and a chance to look at them and think, now then, how would that? And you'd sort of look at the science of it and try to figure out how it would fly, whether it would be part of, whether it would fly from a mothership, or I always used to love to transport them into the real space race, trying to translate it into. I was fascinated by the Martian landings, the Viking landings in 1976, and in my imagination, next to the Viking lander, I would imagine some of the Thunderbird's ships there. And you look at these and you think, oh my goodness, I hope the future is like this. I hope we really do see the future. And I'm sure that we will.
Well, we're already starting to see it, aren't we? With Elon Musk's reusable vertical takeoff and landing rockets. I mean, that's Thunderbird 1 and Thunderbird 3, really. Precisely.
Isn't it amazing? People like him, they will have watched Thunderbirds and drunken all of that up and been inspired. You see, that the sparks do come from these shows. They really, really do. They spark the imagination.
Well, we know he was a space.
Turn people into scientists.
We know that he was a Space 1999 fan, so it's a direct correlation there. That people who watch these shows went on, a lot of them, to work in the sciences and sending machines and people into space, and it's pretty incredible. So, John, transitioning from the puppet shows into live action, I'm guessing you'd have been too young for UFO when it was first out. Did UFO enter into your Gerry Anderson awareness, or was it straight to Space 19?
Oh, yes. Oh, it certainly did. And much, adding more layers to it, watching it now. Because UFO has a wonderful way it creates its very own atmosphere and mood. There's something slightly, there's an uneasy, sort of slightly spooky, mysterious, futuristic sense to it, which is absolutely unique. An episode I caught a repeat a few months ago, and there was wonderful, beautiful cars, these golden cars, sort of with the sense of a Jensen Interceptor. They were magnificent and absolutely uniquely UFO and uniquely Anderson.
Yeah,
but they were like real cars, but so much like the models that had preceded them. To see this kind of vision in reality, in the real world, and the actors had a wonderful way also. It was live action, but they still created the vividness that came from the puppet shows. They somehow had that vivid feeling in their performances and in the worlds that they occupied. But the atmosphere that UFO created was really rather unique. I love the idea that it was set in 1980. Is that right? It was set in 1980.
That's it. In the far
I think we could have had the two Ronnies and Barbara Dixon in there as well at places. But yes, that's one that I love to rewatch now. With my grown up head on.
Well, it's much more grown up. It's much more grown up in its design, isn't it, John? I mean, that's I think Dad really felt like he was leaving behind the childish puppets of the Supermarination era and was taking a bold step into the world of more grown-up live action. He felt like he was, finally a proper television and film professional at this point.
Yeah.
So they do feel different, but they, do they carry on into allowing you to appreciate them as an adult in a different way to the puppet shows because they are more grown-up?
Yes, once again, I grew up in parallel with the shows. By the time Space 1999 came on, I was 10 around about that time, 1978. something around there.
75 it was first out, but they would have been repeating it right up into the early 80s, I think.
I think I do remember the first episodes, actually, around about 1975. And it was so beautifully slick. The feeling of space, the real feeling of being in space was astonishingly created. The models, which were, filmed to appear at a distance, leaving the surface of the moon, that's a beautiful representation of what bases on the moon will probably look like.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if we get back there by 2024. And so slick. Commander Koenig was a brilliant commander who really, he commanded respect. And Barbara Bain, so elegant and smart. She had this wonderful look of concentration and ingeniousness. And the professor, now just remind me of the professor's name.
Bergman, played by Barry Morse.
Barry Morse,
Victor
that's
Bergman.
right, Barry Morse. Victor Bergman, that's it. He went on to become a Jedi, I am sure. After his next job after Moonbase Alpha, I think he became a Jedi Knight. He played the wisdom beautifully, but always, I remember one line of his that, it was alluding to his obvious wisdom and him being a great genius in the profession, the job that he was doing. But he also said he was smart enough to know that, yes, we all still have much to learn. We will always have much to learn, no matter how much we feel we've accomplished. And that show was so full of wonderful role models, but they were so slick, and the feeling of space. I remember a birthday present I got. Here's the 1978 connection. For my 10th birthday in 1978, I was given an Airfix model of one of the craft, the landing craft from Space 1999. And my brother helped me to make it. My brother James helped me to glue it together. And it lived in my bedroom next to a Dalek and Basil Brush for many, many years.
Fantastic.
And, things you could pick up in your hand and just fly around like that. Space 1999 inspired me. One part of it that inspired me was the closing sequence, where there was lots of images of alien planets.
Yep.
With these very vivid colours. Some would resemble Neptune, some with these planets of deep green. And it always got me thinking, my goodness, imagine seeing a real alien planet.
Yeah.
Imagine if just for a moment, if Mars could be where the moon is. Imagine what that would look like. Imagine traveling far into the galaxy and seeing a real alien planet rising up into an alien sky. How different would it be? How familiar? And this was really sparked by those sequences in Space 1999. And so much so, in fact, that the publishers of the Sky at Night magazine, about 7 years ago, asked if I wanted to write a column, and I said yes. Let me do a column called Exoplanet Excursions. I'd like to take some of the facts that are known about confirmed, discovered exoplanets. Nice. And let me write a travelogue about what it might be like to actually visit them. And, a great space artist called Mark Garlick came up with the visions, and that really did come from. I can trace that back to Space 1999 and those visions of those other planets and the sense of possibility, the sense of, what do we have to discover in this galaxy and other galaxies? And magic to have all this in your childhood. So lucky.
Yeah, fantastic. I can really hear from you, John, how impactful it was. And as we've said already, it kind of inspired generations of scientists and beyond. Barry Morse in particular, as Professor Bergman, did you find qualities in him that was similar to, say, Jon Pertwee as the Doctor. I always thought he had a kind of Doctor Who-like quality to him.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. He had there was a stillness. There was a no-nonsense sense about him. He wasn't a hysterical character. There was something about his stillness that was so compelling. It allowed his wisdom to really echo forth in a very trustworthy, reassuring, inspiring way.
Yeah.
You would feel better. You would feel more reassured if he was near, if he was on your team.
Yep.
You know, that the mission would have a greater chance of success when you have this sort of elder statesman there.
Yep.
And yes, a terrific Doctor.
Yeah.
He would have made a terrific Doctor.
To me, he was the sort of amalgamation of Hartnell, Troughton and Pertwee all in one in some ways.
Oh, of course, yes. Yes, I remember Terence Dix talking about the three of them, you see, and he would say, yes, you know, the the sort of intellectual arrogance of William Hartnell, you know, a little bit crotchety at times, but that was never lost for Patrick Troughton, you see, and also bringing in the clowning and that very engaging character, and Jon Pertwee, you see, who, you know, when he was on the screen, you know, you couldn't look at anybody else, you see, and, the action hero coming in, you see, with the shock of white hair. Yes, Barry Morse's character had elements of all of those.
Yeah.
He really did. And Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
I think that kind of wisdom was also there. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing how many people felt an affinity with Bergman, and he had a kind of paternal quality to him, I think, in a kind of Jeff Tracy and Colonel White way.
Yes.
Around. Also, John, when you're talking about this, I realised that you seem to feel most strongly about Space 1999. Correct me if I'm wrong, or, you know, casting aspersions.
No, I think I really did. I really did connect with that. 1975, 1978, this sort of period.
Yeah.
I was 10 years old then. I was really kind of into my amateur astronomy by this time.
Yeah.
I was observing the stars. I was fascinated by programs about UFOs and the paranormal, ghosts, things like this. The thought of aliens from, you know, other planets. Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, things like this was a fascination. And in Space 1999, you had all elements were in there with that. And when that came along, I was absolutely ready for it. And I just drank it all up. It appealed to those elements of your childhood that were still there, but it also appealed to that part of your psyche that was looking to a time when you were going to be older. It had that kind of, it led you forward. It got you thinking about, you know, what am I going to do when I'm in my 20s? Will I be working as a scientist? Will we be able to visit the moon then? Could this end up being my job? Could I be like Barry Morse's character? There was something. It appealed to every part of your psyche. It really did. But with always with that Anderson sense of magic. And as I watched that back now, tremendous.
A lovely little summary there, John. Really nice. So does that mean you'll never guess who's trying to FaceTime me right now, John? It's bloody Nick Briggs.
Is it Nick Briggs?
Yeah. Hang on, I'm just going to tell him to go away, John. Nick Briggs, this is a bit awkward. Yeah. You're FaceTiming. Are you doing a podcast?
Yeah.
Because I'm doing a podcast interview with Jon Culshaw currently.
Oh,
Hello, Nick.
He can. He says, hello, Nick. Hello, Nick.
Oh, bless you. Well, we've had an accidental celebrity guest.
Yes. I'm sure I can snip this bit out and forward it to you so that you can actually have all four of us on your podcast, possibly with John's permission.
Wow, amazing.
Yes, that will be.
But, John,
that will be absolutely marvelous. Oh, so sorry, I keep talking over everybody. Yes, see you soon, Nick. See you soon. Bye for now.
See you soon, Nick. See you soon. Bye.
Your podcast.
Thank you, and you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Sorry about that, John. We've had an accidental
not at all.
podcast crossover where Nick and Nick and Benji show call me on FaceTime, and then the podcast. So I'm terribly sorry about that. No, before we were so rudely interrupted by Nick Briggs, I was going to say, I was thinking about this morning. In fact, I was chatting to a future guest of the podcast, Samira Ahmed. If you know Samira, she's a big Space 1999 fan, and it struck me that there are a lot of people like yourself, and like me as well, that they like Doctor Who and Space 1999, and I was trying to work out what it is about those two shows, and I think you've kind of touched on it, that there's something about the exploration, but there's also something about the randomness of that exploration and the excitement behind that, and the unwillingness to some degree of the characters within it to go on that journey. You know, that when John Pertwee's Doctor was trapped on Earth, that's the unwillingness there. But when they're flying around the TARDIS, there's a randomness to it, and the companions going with. I mean, that is that again. That's something that makes you think that could be me thrown into that situation and exploring the universe.
Yes, exactly. The sense of danger that they face, the unpredictability, the bravery of those characters. They need great technical skill and great bravery. They're really at risk in what they're doing, but it's all for the common good. It's all in the name of the advancement of the human species. Ever since human beings were Neanderthals and we wandered out of caves, we were always wanting to explore, to move forward, to see what was in the land just around the corner, to see what was on the land that we could see over the sea. Humans are natural explorers, and that will always go on. Human beings are part of the universe, and we interact with it. And in Space 1999, we see ways in which that really could be. There was a sense of possibility. It wasn't absolute, just fiction, and that's that. There's a plausibility. Yeah. And in the future, there will be many, many similarities to that, I am sure. You could imagine the International Space Station 100 years from now, perhaps being far less an intricate network of technical equipment, and it could be more like that sleek set that we saw on Space 1999 with the uniforms and so on, and this very graceful, orderly manner in which it's run. There's a sense of aspiration, plausibility, which keeps you there.
It's a lovely image of aspiration. Perhaps not with the flares, though, John.
Well, when you've not got a lot of oxygen, you want it to swirl about a bit, don't you?
that must explain the whole thing. That's the reason for the costumes.
It's just for wafting. You need a bit of wafting in.
It gets a bit stale up there otherwise. Well, I can really hear your love for Space 1999. Did that connection to the Gerry Anderson universe extend beyond that time, John? Were you ever one of those who carried on watching things like Terrorhawks or Dick Spanner or Space Precinct into the 90s and beyond, or did you leave it behind in the 70s?
Yes, I was less aware of those. I think by then I was sort of I was getting towards my 20s by then. So I suppose I watched a little bit less TV as such. I was working as a DJ in those years, so I tended to put lots of sort of 12-inch vinyl records in the back of my mum's Mini and drive off and work as a DJ. So I was sort of in a different stage of life. I was aware that my young nephews were watching and loving those shows in exactly the same way that I had watched Thunderbirds and Stingray and Joe 90. So it was lovely to see, and of course they were watching the repeats of those shows, with Terrorhawks added into the mix and so on, which was lovely to see going on. It's lovely to see that continuation, and it's still going on. It's still going on now.
It is. People still finding it and kids still watching it and enjoying these comparatively ancient.
They'll always be there.
Yeah, I think so.
They will always be there.
They've always come back every decade or so and had a new lease of life, which is just brilliant to see.
Yeah.
So, John, you said when you were watching Space 1999, those shows that there was, you were kind of following down your amateur astronomy path. At what point did that stay amateur and the voice work take over? And could we possibly tie in any Gerry Anderson influence to that happening?
Yes, I suppose. Yes, exactly. I started off as a DJ. I volunteered at my local hospital Radio Ormskirk General. And in fact, I made an intro for my show, which was based on the Thunderbirds countdown.
Oh, fantastic.
So I would start my show with that and, 5, 4, 3, 2, the important pause, 1. And instead of a rocket, I didn't follow that with a rocket, but the sound of a Morris Minor sort of chugging and driving off up the road. Under which you could play the intro to, Something About You by Level 42 or, some sort of track of the time, sometimes by Erasure, some sort of a 1986 type track.
Yeah.
So yes, I voiced the countdown myself and replaced the rocket with a Morris Minor, and it was a nice quirky way to intro the show.
Amazing. Yeah. That's fantastic. And now, John, everywhere, doing everything, stage, screen, radio. I mean, what are you currently working on? What can our listeners look forward to hearing from you next about?
Well, I feel very, very lucky indeed. I'm very, very lucky to work at Big Finish quite a lot with the wonderful Mr. Briggs. He's terrific to work with. He makes for such a joyful recording, especially when he joins in as some of the aliens and enemies. He's brilliant at bringing those to life. Brilliant. So I've been playing Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart at Big Finish, which has been it's a joyful thing to portray Nicholas Courtney. Doing it
brilliantly, John. I have to say, even in that short trailer that's online, which I suggest people go and look up, Third Doctor Adventures Volume 3, is it? I think. Or maybe
I think it might be 5 now. Volume 5.
5? Is it already 5? Goodness me! Anyway, go and listen to that, folks, because you'll enjoy John's Nick Courtney. It's brilliant.
It's a beautiful voice, the way it matured over the years.
Yes.
In the 1970s, there was that great sense of urgency. They are, Miss Shaw. They are. And then later, when perhaps Nick Courtney would be being interviewed about the. In fact, yes. 30 Years in the TARDIS. You featured in that, didn't you?
Thanks for bringing that up.
With your father. Well, that's how I knew you were a Doctor Who fan. We all. That was a wonderful moment. But yes, of course, Nick Courtney did the commentary, and that's there we are. 30 years. Who'd have thought it? And his voice had matured then like a fine whiskey.
Yes.
And a lovely fellow. I met him on 2 or 3 occasions, and he was the warmest, the most funny, the most witty fellow. There was a Doctor Who event put on by the Heritage Foundation at the Grosvenor House Hotel, I think, and Nick was there, and he gave a speech along with Terence Dix and Barry Letts, and we all went into the pub afterwards this one December afternoon, and it began to snow outside because it was near Christmas, and we were all there with them. Treasured memory, and wonderful, wonderful fellow. Much missed.
Oh, well, doing him proud, John, I think.
You're very kind. You're very kind.
You're in plenty of Big Finish. In fact, you played recently Chameleon in the
Yes, Chameleon.
And you even played Chameleon in Black Thursday, which I wrote.
Ah, my goodness, yes, of course. Of course, Chameleon. Now, he was, I sort of like moved him along from, I always thought that the Gerald Flood tone was absolutely right for Chameleon when he was in that medieval setting.
Yeah.
And then once Chameleon had moved into another setting, then his voice, I always thought, would sort of work its way down to a sort of a default setting.
Yeah.
And looking at his face, there's a sort of an elegance in that face. There's a courtly elegance. I'm sure he's a friend of C-3PO, Chameleon.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure they put their heads together and compare data.
Absolutely.
But I always imagined that he would have a voice somewhere around here, which would be electronic and clipped sounding, but also something about a Chameleon's eyes. There's a kindness behind those eyes.
Yeah.
And there's an elegance to him. There's something about him that can be, one of his fascinations, I think, is because he's got the potential to be perhaps easily led.
Yeah.
He can fall into the wrong hands, you know. That gives us a fascination with him, I think. But yeah, that's a wonderful story. Black Thursday, wonderful story.
Well, you have to say that now, John, that we're on the phone. So, but thank you for doing it.
Well, no, it's not at all. You
did a lovely job.
Me. Well, thank you, and it was a beautiful story to deliver. And what the fans describing it, you know, how great it is to have new material for Chameleon.
Yeah,
a character who in 1984, when technology wouldn't allow him to be quite so free, through Big Finish, to have those possibilities. The fans loved and appreciated that, which was very gratifying. So thank you for that story.
No. Well, thank you for doing it so proud. Do you think there's any space in the world for further Big Finish Gerry Anderson stuff? Because we've done a bit of Captain Scarlet, we've done Terrorhawks. If you could choose one to see, brought back to life via Big Finish, I can probably guess your answer. But go on.
Wow. Do you think they'd do Space 1999?
Well, I think that would be a good fit. Yeah, it'd be a fantastic fit.
Joe 90, they might not.
Not if I've got to do with it, John.
Did you have this discussion with your dad? Did he mind you saying this? Would you have a sort of like a discussion on that?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that 30 Years in the TARDIS. Kevin Davis, who did that, he showed me the full rushes of that session, which caused me to curl up into a small, embarrassed ball because I was such a precocious little git. Actually, that's probably why I don't like Joe, because I could see that in myself, or see myself in Joe being a precocious little oik. But I did at the time. I didn't fully appreciate all the kind of the business and the personal and the financial considerations around intellectual property and making a TV show, which obviously I now appreciate acutely. And they asked Dad what he thought of Doctor Who in the rushes, and he said, "I think the stories are okay. The sets are terrible. The acting can be pretty ropey, and I just don't understand everybody's fascination with it. It's not for me." And then they said, "And what if you were approached to bring the series back, Gerry? What would you say then?" He said, "In that case, I would ask that what I just said was struck from the record, and I'd be more than happy, and I'd love to give it a go."
Wow.
So,
yes.
That Gerry
Gosh,
Anderson,
I'd love to have seen. Wow.
It would have been very interesting. But I, being a little rude child and not understanding the right situation and stuff, Kevin then said, "And what do you think, Jamie? Would you like your dad doing it?" And I basically said no, because I didn't approve of all of his shows, and I didn't like the fact that he hadn't done more Thunderbirds or something. But I didn't understand at the time, how it all worked. So no, he was happy to slag off the thing that I loved, and I was very happy to pass comment on things which weren't my favourite. And because he wasn't very nostalgic and he didn't look back and he wasn't he was never sat there going, "Oh yes, Thunderbirds is a masterpiece." You know, he could see the fault in every single thing they'd ever done, and he couldn't really see past that. That, you know, I wasn't really hurting his feelings. He was probably nodding along in agreement with me.
Now, I always thought, you know, at that moment when you said yes, you know, a Doctor Who fan, I could see a lovely sense of pride with your father then. That, you know, of course, you know, he knew that you loved and admired his shows, but here was a little bit of your own thinking. Here was a bit of independence going on, and there was just something about that where I thought, yeah, he's proud of that.
Oh,
he's
thanks,
proud
John.
that James said that. Yeah,
I hope so. I mean, he did praise you that by saying the greatest tragedy of my life is that my son is a Doctor Who fan. So he didn't match in words what he conveyed with a look, but let's trust the look.
Yes, I mean, it's a very interesting thought what he would have done with Doctor Who. He would have done miracles. He would have been a wonderful Doctor Who showrunner. Yes, a showrunner, as they say. That would have been incredible. I think, yes.
He could have done something Space 1999 UFO-y with it.
Yeah.
But with that, the added freedom of time and space. And the possibilities of the TARDIS. Yeah, I mean, it could have been fascinating, but we shall never know, John.
It might have had a similar feeling, perhaps, to the Peter Cushing movies. I wonder if that gives us a clue as to what it might have been like a little bit, because the look of some of those was fantastic and vivid. But I think, there would have been much more technology had your father made those. I think it would have been quite like the perhaps Matt Smith's era we could think of. Yeah, that probably gives us our best clue.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a wonderful conjecture, what a wonderful thing to consider.
It is, and again, not where I was expecting this chat to go. John, I could easily carry on chatting to you for hours about all this, but you know, we have to think of your extremely precious time. So if we can round off, John, I think you've conveyed it several times over in different ways, but if you could bring together all of your thoughts on what it is about Gerry Anderson shows, be they marionette or live action or whatever, what is the essential Andersonness that struck you so powerfully as a child and has kept you interested in these shows until now and hopefully way beyond?
It's the unique look and feeling of them, so distinctive, which makes you think of excitement. You sit down in your armchair in front of the TV and you're glued to it, and you're not going to look away. And so distinctive, you could look at a single shot from any Anderson show, and those hallmarks would be there. Those hallmarks would be there. It would be brimming with the excitement and the aspiration and the fascination. In a snapshot, so distinctive, instantly recognizable, and in a way that will last forever.
Brilliant. What a nice soundbite, John. Thank you for that. Fantastic. And John, if our listeners want to find you on social media, online, how do they do that? Where are you?
Just at Jon Culshaw, Jon, short for Jonathan, you'll see. So Jon Culshaw, no gaps, and with the little at thing in there. And yes, I go on there occasionally. I retweet the odd thing. Sometimes I put on astronomy photographs of the moon that I've taken and stuff like that.
Very nice.
So yes, indeed.
I'm sure you'll get a few tweets.
Oh, that'd be lovely. And what a joy to speak to you. It's an absolute joy. Thank you for your time, sir.
Oh, don't be daft, John. That's been brilliant. Thank you.
How dare they?
I know.
How dare they interrupt you in full flow?
Well, yes, so thanks for that, Nick and Benji show, for slightly spoiling our interview with Jon Culshaw, but...
It's quite nice. There's like a little Venn diagram there, though, isn't there, of their podcast and our podcast meeting. That little intersection point there.
Just momentarily. Well, I couldn't really tell him to go away because I think Nick put us in touch with John anyway. So,
fair enough. Yeah, and he has given us both a bit of work over the years, hasn't he, Nick Briggs? So
Jon Culshaw, he's given us no work at all. But
Yet.
Absolutely, who knows? But then Nick Briggs... well, yes, because if John's ever in need of a Terry Wogan impressionist...
the old Wogan, eh?
Then, you know...
Oh, yeah.
Then he can probably do it himself. But
Right, yeah, it's much better, probably. And in fact, Dead Ringers, I think, started last Friday. So that's the brand new series on Radio 4. Just last week. Maybe.
There you go. So John got his plug. And as he said at the end of the interview, do follow him on Twitter at Jon Culshaw. That's with no H.
That's right.
In
the
the John,
way
not the
John,
Culshaw.
really. Yeah. That's right.
JONCULSHAW is what I mean.
Very good. Now, over on YouTube, Tomo Agogo got in touch to say, great episodes again, chaps. I thought that Jon Culshaw, this is the first part of the interview, hit the nail on the head with his comments, not just on the Anderson universe, but sci-fi from the era in general. And I realised, listening to the interview, he was right. Those of us who lived in that era, mid-60s and throughout the 70s, were lucky with TV science fiction. And yes, John, I agree. Jon Pertwee, for me, was the best Doctor. Fair enough. It's all right now.
Yeah.
And in fact, he then concluded his message with a hey-ya! Little bit of Venusian Aikido, I think.
Oh, I see.
Either that or it's hiya. Not sure which.
Might be hiya. I don't know. Anyway, yes, same to you. What was his name, Mr. Agogo?
That's Thomas, yeah, that's Mr. Agogo. Ian Dealey said Jon Culshaw was a great impressionist and part 1 of this interview was really fascinating. Yeah, well, I hope you just enjoyed part 2. Andy Scott, again, over on YouTube. Richard James, would it be possible to do an interview with Chris Barry of Red Dwarf fame? He has a picture of him with Scott Tracy. I did try and get in touch and didn't hear anything back because he lives in my village, so... I mean, next time I see him out and about, I will grab him. But he's very often in a nice vintage car and he just speeds past, to be honest.
Oh, fair enough. He speeds past. Are you sure he's not speeding at you?
Yeah. No, I think he sees me and then speeds off in the other direction.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Now, I do know Chris a little bit. We had children at the same school and I think we've met at a couple of conventions as well. So
yeah, well, the photo of him with Scott Tracy that they're talking about is one where he and I met at Brit Sci-Fi
there you go.
a few years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
So no, we're always trying for interesting and diverse new interviewees.
We are indeed.
Wonderful interviewees, plenty coming soon, hopefully,
Absolutely.
if we can book them.
Yeah. Great.
Richard, we've held everybody long enough away from their favourite part of the podcast.
We have, haven't we? We've been very cruel.
Yes. So shall we let them have what they want?
I think it's about time, isn't it?
Okay. Well, here you go, listeners. Have a piece of Chris Dale.
So yeah, as I was saying, I'm really looking forward to next week at the Fab Worlds of Anderson in Leicester. Chance to meet some of our listeners, maybe get some feedback, and of course doing the podcast live on the Saturday means a live randomizer as well. And what's that? Oh, I wish you could be there too. Yeah, I know a lot of people would like to meet you, and it's really a shame that you can't be there. Oh, what's that? You'd play your xylophone to them. Yeah, I don't know if that's relevant or not. Anyway, your friend, do you think he's done making his selection on the randomizer now? Oh, here he comes. Hello there, Sweep. Have you made your selection on the randomizer? Okay, what series is it? Oh, you're going to make me guess. Okay, is it Thunderbirds? No, it's not Thunderbirds, Sooty. Is it Stingray? Nah, it's not Stingray. Is it Captain Scarlet? No, it's not Captain Scarlet. Are you going to make me go through the whole list of Gerry Anderson shows to find out what you've picked? Oh, good. Is it UFO? So, is it... It's not Torchy, is it? Oh, thank goodness. Well, I guess that only really leaves... It is The Protectors. Okay, right. Whew, got there in the end. So, what episode is it? Oh, no. There are 51 episodes, please. We can't go through the whole lot like this. Just tell me which episode of The Protectors it is we're watching today. Yes? Yes? The Big Hit. Sweep says it's The Big Hit today. You know, Sweep, you could have saved everybody a lot of time by just saying that right up front. It's no wonder I'm not taking either of you to Leicester next week. So here we go with our second visit to The Protectors. This is our first visit to the first season of The Protectors. And, yeah, last time round with The Protectors we had Decoy, which I didn't feel I did a very good job on. So feeling a bit more confident about the Big Hit today, as it's a first season episode. And And for other reasons as well, which I'll get into maybe a bit later on. But for right now, we have this opening where the Contessa is in her villa, fencing with some guy who looks like Derek Farr, but probably isn't.
I must apologise, Contessa. I can't imagine...
It'll give me time to recover my breath. You can take it in the main hall.
And he's been called away by the telephone.
Well, Chino, what do you think? Am I improving?
Well, Contessa, fencing is an Italian art, and you're English. But I do know that Signor Vitello thinks you have no more to learn.
Flattery, Chino. That is the Italian art, and you have lived here too long.
Oh, Contessa.
I like Anthony Chin in this. I don't think he's quite like, all the way there in terms of like the acting, but it's a nice sort of companion to the Contessa, who incidentally is now being attacked by what she thinks is her fencing partner. He is actually trying to kill her. This is a very nicely choreographed fight scene here, and they're both now fighting with foils without the tips on the end. Unfortunately, we've also got a fairly unbelievable stunt double for Nairi Dawn Porter in some of the long shots, which is weird because she often seems very capable in the fight scenes. I'm not sure why they would always... Why they would use a stunt double for this scene when she's doing so much of the fighting in close-up herself anyway. Yeah, but now her stunt double is defeated.
Who sent you?
The imposter, because it's not the guy who went to answer the phone. He's just come back in, and the other guy has left via the window. And the Contessa's just pouting because there's no way she could, like, go after him. He's all of 4 feet away. In fact, he had to run past another window to get away from the house. She could have probably beaten him to that window and opened it into his face or something. But never mind. Can't be helped. Now, one of the reasons I think I'm on safer ground with this one, firstly, is the first season has generally been repeated more often, I think, than the second. Just recently with ITV4 repeating The Protectors, it took a long time for them to get to the second season. But also, a lot of the European-based episodes, they just kind of blur into one for me. It's this long... Just one long episode of nice, bright, sunny places and drug dealery, gun runnery, kidnappery type plots that aren't really unique enough to be all that memorable. But with this, because it's based in London, it may be a personal thing entirely, I just have a stronger memory of these UK-based episodes for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. Anyway, Paul is now romancing a young lady in his apartment. Oh, getting a bit of the old kissy-kissy here. Didn't take him long, of course.
If I hadn't broken the heel of my shoe...
As I was leaving the office.
I'd never have met.
And talked.
Sounds a bit convenient. Suspiciously convenient. So now Paul has fallen asleep because the naughty lady has drugged his drink. And it's now time for her to reach into her purse, pull out... Oh, a gun. But Paul wasn't asleep.
If there's one thing I know, it's the flavor of Normandy Calvados.
But you drank it.
Mm-mm. You did.
Ah, that'll show you. That'll show you, naughty lady. Yeah, that's a very... not only a trope that's kind of a running theme in this show, but in Anderson shows of, like, you know, Thunderbirds and similar, where people know their expensive tastes. They've got their expensive tastes. They know exactly the flavour of expensive drinks and all these kinds of things.
Ciao, caro.
So Caroline warned Paul that there was an assassination plot on her life. Over at Harry's place, Suki has just gone to answer the phone. And there's 2 guys there. She's beaten them up with ease, but... oh, she wasn't counting on one of them standing up again and pulling a gun on her. Oh.
Still no answer from his line.
Silly Suki.
I want to know who sent you, and I want to know why. Are you offering me a deal?
No deal.
And yet you expect me to talk?
No, Miss Blonde Lady. But no, we're not going to kill you.
You're old enough to know the score.
Go back to the man who sent you and tell him you didn't quite make it. He'll ask how much you collected to let Paul off the hook. Then he'll put out a new contract for murder with your name at the top.
Now, see yourself out.
So Caroline and Paul are going to let Paul's would-be assassin lady go, knowing that she'll probably earn the wrath of the guy who sent her to kill him in the first place.
Who is it? I don't know his name. We met at a bar in London.
So this episode, I think, has a very strong central theme. It's something that these ITC shows, not necessarily the Anderson shows, but things like The Saint and The Persuaders and similar shows very rarely did, and whenever they did, it always worked really well. Brian Clements called it attacking the premise. If you're going to write a story for a particular series, write a script that actually examines the setup of the series. Don't just do a generic like cops and robbers type thing that any show could do. And in this episode, we have the central idea is that someone is out to wreck the entire Protectors network, killing off all the agents one by one.
Suki, what happened?
Which I think is really, really strong idea.
Hostage. He had no choice.
And also, what makes it even more effective is that Robert Vaughn is out of it for quite a long time. He's been kidnapped by this odd fellow who
Just tell the others to hold on a moment.
who runs a swimwear agency.
Morning, Mr. Rule.
And he's taking time out from examining
Or may I call you Harry?
swimsuit-wearing ladies to chat to his
You can hear me, Mr. Rule.
his hostage.
I can hear you. Good.
We know not yet where he is.
Complete list of the whole Protector organization. Think it over. I'll contact you later for your answer. You can have it now. Negative.
So all we know is Harry is inside something wooden, and we're hearing the noise of machinery, and it's a bit wobbly. More on that story later, but for now, Mr. Swimwear Factory Kidnapper Protector Takedown Plot guy is going back to examining models wearing swimsuits.
In the last week, 2 protectors have died. One in a car crash in Tokyo, the other on a case in New York.
Yes, I know. Put it all together.
Why did you tell me?
Because of whoever it is after the whole protectors organization.
Uh-huh. No lead yet on your phony Italian.
And it's also, going back to the central idea of the story, it was very rare that the show even acknowledged that the Protectors amounted to more than the 3 main characters. There was, I think through the first season, we occasionally saw Protectors. I think there was one in Greece, who was in a couple of episodes, and Robert Vaughn's business partner played another Protector in a couple of episodes as well. But by and large, it just seemed like there were these 3 people.
I think you better check to see if it's arrived.
And there was never really any clear explanation what the rest of the network actually did, what their responsibilities were. And by the second series, I think that idea had just largely been shelved in favour of, absolutely just these 3. Which is kind of a shame. I like the sort of... I like, obviously, the global filming aspect of the Protectors, but I also would have loved to have seen a bit more focus on what the organisation actually was, maybe how it had been set up. Just a bit more information than the, to be fair, almost nothing that we got.
Oh, we had them from all over the world. Where'd you come from?
Paris. Here, you see this one here with the Eiffel Tower? It's from my hometown.
Came this morning.
Thank you for explaining.
They forgot to sign it.
So Paul has now arrived in the bar where his would-be assassin said she met the guy who hired her.
1 or 2 factories.
Looking around for some information.
Thank you, sir.
And I know Tony Anholt comes in for a lot of stick for the second season of Space 1999. To be honest, I don't really understand the hatred against him personally. I understand that people maybe don't like Tony Vedeschi as a character because sometimes he can be a bit sort of His comedy beer brewing antics are just dreadful. But Tony Anholt is a really nice...
What is it?
A really talented actor, I think, in shows like this. And it's nice that the series would occasionally mix up who got the starring role that week, because we have three main characters. Sometimes it would be Harry and the Contessa, and sometimes it would be Harry and Paul, and sometimes it would be the Contessa and Paul. Usually it was all three of them, but it was nice when they mixed things up a bit, like they have here. Oh, so someone's just trying to run Paul down, and that is actually Tony Anholt doing his own stunts. He just leapt out of the way of that car into those boxes and bins, and then leapt up a drain pipe, and it's all him.
You fool! You're no better than a girl.
Oh, Mr. Underwear Man is not happy. He looks like he's about to cry.
How to make a man more cooperative.
I wonder what Robert Vaughn actually
Nothing will go wrong.
thought of this script, though, to be honest, because I think it was quite an early episode made, and it's like, we've brought over this big American star to star in our show. What are we going to do with him this week? Oh, we'll lock him in a crate and just kind of rock him around a bit. Maybe he was having some time off, I don't know. It must have been a very hectic shooting schedule for a show like this.
It's a pity that I didn't see the driver who tried to run me down. But I didn't. So that's why I need you with me, my little Suzanne, as bait.
And meanwhile, the Contessa is carefully positioned on the other side of the club, keeping watch on Paul and his
we're stirring the hornet's nest.
lady killer friend.
Will you excuse me for a moment? This heat is getting to my makeup.
Don't be long or I'll come looking for you.
Ooh. And this isn't a trap at all. This isn't a ploy of some description. Just let the only person who has any information about what's going on here just wander off.
Believe me, he forced me to bring him here.
You sent the card, the signal.
He sent it. I had no choice.
I don't think she made much of her explanation made much of an impact on the two grey-suited, black-tied henchmen there. Now the Contessa is going out to check on things.
You mean we've lost her?
I mean, we've been double-crossed by the only lead we have.
Oh, and sitting there doing nothing seemed like such a really good plan. Oh, and she's dead. Oh, yeah, better move her head around. Yep, definitely dead. This is another area I think the Protector scores highly over things like the Champions and Department S, as well as all this location filming. We've got a proper nighttime chase scene here. Also a man in a pink shirt who walked into shot, realised he was on camera and then didn't know what to do. Oh, I'm sorry, man in pink shirt, your moment of indecision is forever captured on film. Now the baddies have arrived at the swimwear factory. I don't really know what this guy is actually hoping to get out of all this. Specifically how the whole him running a swimwear factory kind of plays into things. I mean, that's... I don't know.
I'll give you 5 minutes to reconsider.
He's not very effective at getting information out of Harry, whatever his ultimate goal is. You know, a lot of sitting on a settee, just kind of pouting when Harry doesn't tell him things.
I've given him 5 minutes. Start at precisely 11:15. And this time, don't stop.
Oh. He's passed on instructions. They have to start. We still don't know what it is, because we still don't quite know where Harry is. But Caroline and Paul have arrived at the underwear factory. And they're going to try and break in. And now we've just panned out from a close-up on the face of a naked female mannequin who has surprisingly detailed in the old chest department.
Straight ahead.
Caroline and Paul have been captured. Oh no, Chino's come to save the day.
Look for Harry.
Yeah, we were doing that. Oh, okay. Paul and Chino are going to handle the two guys in the mannequin storeroom, while Mr. Swimwear...
Harry!
Oh. You're just going to run around calling his name?
Harry!
Well, my dear Contessa. My first failure. I never really did approve the Italian fencing idea. Too showy.
I would have thought so.
Too showy for a man who invites women into his office to model swimwear.
I think you're less a failure, more temporary setback. Yes, I'm very glad you decided to come, Contessa. You see, it'll make things very much easier for me.
Oh, I should hate to be responsible for that.
Your friend Harry's a very stubborn man.
Also, something I like about mixing up the, how many of the three main characters get to appear in an episode is very often Nairi Dawn Porter gets to take the lead, and whenever that happens, it's always really good. She's always really watchable. She seems... Not only does she seem sort of, cultured and cool in the same way that a live-action Lady Penelope might be, she seems kind of dangerous, and in scenes like this when she's sort of taunting the bad guys...
You mean they finally got together to agree on something?
She's really quite charming.
The systematic destruction of your protector network.
So there we go. All the baddies in the world have teamed up to destroy the protectors, because the protectors, whatever it is that they do, which varies from week to week, is a threat to swimwear company owning gentlemen like this.
It's nice to hear a friendly voice.
Who's just tripped over his own feet, and Caroline's taken his gun.
I think I'm packed in a packing case, probably underneath the steam hammer.
Where are you holding him?
You're too late.
It's 11 o'clock, or 11:15, or whenever it was that he said to start. Oh, now she's locked in a battle with Swimwear Man, who has just been shot by Paul. Yay, Paul.
You okay?
Oh, yes, I'm fine.
Oh, whoa, you don't do that. You don't do that with a loaded gun.
Yeah.
Caroline just pointed it at her own head.
Yeah.
Have you any idea where you are?
No.
What film was it in that someone did that? Oh, Plan 9. Yeah, Plan 9's from outer space. Someone's there with a loaded gun and they just keep scratching their heads with it. It's like, you don't do that.
It's there or there.
So they're looking out the window and they can see over the other side of the train tracks there's a crane with a wooden crate that's being banged against the wall of a warehouse.
We'll never make it in time.
Gino.
He's going to be bashed to death. The crane operator, to be fair, looks like he's having the time of his life. Luckily, the protectors have brought a snap-together sniper rifle, so Paul is now aiming his sights on the crane operator, who still seems to be having the time of his life. And that's him dead. Somehow they shot him through the window of the cab without breaking the glass. Because they're the protectors, and they can do that kind of thing.
Harry, are you all right?
Yeah. Nothing that a good orthopedic surgeon in 3 months on the critical list won't cure. Will someone get me out of here?
We're on our way.
And that's it. Harry has been saved. He's still stuck in the box, but we'll assume that the other protectors managed to get him out of there without too many complications. And that was the big hit. I really rather like that one. Again, a nice sort of focus. Oh, they misspelled assassin on the end titles there. A nice focus on the Protectors organisation itself. Maybe more of that would have been good. A slightly odd villain who didn't really do much, but yeah, I really rather enjoyed that.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
And what a treat.
Lovely. That was nice to have something a little bit different, wasn't it? A little bit special there for the randomiser. That's great.
So nice to welcome Sweep onto the show.
To the show, that's right. Yeah, really lovely. Gosh.
I mean, shame it was Protectors, though.
Yeah, that was a bit of a letdown, wasn't it? But still, there we are.
And well done, Chris, for booking Sweep, because we know how...
He doesn't come cheap.
How difficult he is, and how difficult Sweep's agent is as well.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't go cheap, he goes...
Well, as we heard. Thanks for the bird gag, Richard. Oh dear. Anyway, thank you, Chris. More randomiser next week, and more everything next week.
Yeah.
But all those things will be live.
Oh yeah.
At the Space Centre, if you can make it, or if hopefully the technology allows and we can stream it live on the Facebook group. If you haven't already joined, facebook.com/group/Podsterons. And make sure you answer the 3 questions or you won't get in and you won't be able to keep up with us live on the day.
That's right. It's going to be so exciting. It's going to be really lovely. They've got a whole host of guests beside us three. There's Lee Sullivan, Chris Thompson, Matt Zimmerman, Brian Johnson, I think, and Graham Bleethman, and I'm sure there are at least a couple of others. There's lots of props and costumes and all sorts from all the various series. Lots of Thunderbird stuff going on, I think, as well. And be a really good, a lovely weekend, I think.
I'm looking forward to it, yeah.
Yeah. And a full English breakfast in the Premier Inn on Sunday morning.
Well, see, I was looking forward to a couple of beers on a Saturday night, but also the full English on the Sunday morning. They're equal, level pegging.
Oh, yeah. One leads directly into the other, really.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Richard, that is the end of Pod 52.
Oh, we made it.
And can I just say that on the day of recording, it is actually the first anniversary of the actual release of Pod 1, which was the 7th of June 2018.
Well.
We're recording this on the 7th of June 2019, obviously, as would be made clear when we're saying it's the anniversary.
Yeah.
It's a bit confusing, though, because we've had a Pod 50 anniversary, and this is our actual recording and release anniversary, and then we've got
a little something else coming up later in June, haven't we, Jamie?
We have.
Which is also kind of an anniversary celebration, which is just for you and I, so perhaps we shouldn't even mention that.
We're like the Queen, aren't we, with an official public birthday. Rude. We've got multiple birthdays, and we're going to celebrate every single one. So.
Yeah, that's right.
There's two of us.
And we don't carry change either.
No, exactly. We've got a very subdued wave.
We have. That's very true, yeah.
Anyway, this is absolutely enough of our nonsense.
Can't use any of that.
Yeah, we can. We will hopefully see lots of you on Saturday and Sunday. If not, we'll see you online, see you around, see you next week. Please, now, go to your podcast provider of choice and leave a rating, leave a review, subscribe, and share us with your chums.
Yeah.
In fact, as we come up to the anniversary, make this the time to just message on Facebook or email or text a couple of friends and say, by the way, have you tried this podcast? Let's see if we can get our download and listener numbers up from the 1 year on.
That was an appeal on behalf of the Gerry Anderson Podcast by Jamie Anderson.
Thanks, Richard. No, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Now we've made it through the first year. Come on, folks. Yeah. Share us around, spread the love and all that.
Lovely. Exactly.
And if you've done that, then email us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. I think it's time to go, Richard, isn't it?
See you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Goodbye.
Right. What are you doing now, Richard?
What am I doing now? Actually, I'm going to celebrate a friend's birthday in High Wycombe this afternoon.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, will there be cake and balloons?
Well, having a meal. Proper, grown-up birthday.
Oh.
Yeah.
One of those, eh?
No, just having a meal this
afternoon. Hang on. Wait. What's that? Richard, somebody's activated the space-time telegraph.
How long has that been there?
Well, it's always been there, but we just don't normally get calls.
Yeah, something's coming through, you're right.
Who is it?
Hello. This is the Doctor speaking. You're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
What?
We've just been messaged by the Doctor himself.
Goodness
me. I can't believe that.
What does that mean?
That's amazing. It means he's been listening to the podcast.
All this time.
Hope we haven't been rude about him. / her.
Yes. Well, let's find out. I guess that means he's coming on next week. Well, actually, it means that Jake Dudman's coming on next week. But fair enough. Still nice, isn't it, anyway?
Of course it is, yeah. I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah. Right, well, enjoy your adult's birthday party.
Yeah, thanks. You're not invited.
No, I know.
Have a nice day.
Too much to do in Wales anyway. Enjoy the rain. All right.
Yeah.
Bye, Dickie.
Bye.